So I've seen two movies in the past month that star someone from the Fast and the Furious franchise and that have very telling similarities to classic movies from the past century and that both take place in the same location for seemingly no reason. And that location is
China.
So both movies take place in China for seemingly no reason whatsoever. And I've noticed this with a lot of movies this decade, that they just take place in China for seemingly no reason. So why pick China, of all places, to be the setting of your movie? Let's find out. The answer's quite simple. It's money. I know, I framed this out to be an elaborate explanation, but the answer's really that simple. I'm gonna put this up now. China is a very heavily populated country. It's the most populated country in the world. So it's really no surprise that there is the largest potential market for any company trying to sell something there. Companies have recently been making a big push towards marketing to China because of the large market, the more people, the more money they can earn, which isn't inherently a bad thing. See, it's not really a bad thing to market towards a specific audience that you want to sell the product to. If I wanted to sell this cup to a female audience, then I would make this cup the color that has been statistically proven to be more appealing to women than men, making them want to buy the product more, giving me more money, and that doesn't compromise the product itself. So how does that apply to movies? Once again, there's nothing wrong with aiming for an audience. Casting an actor that's popular at the time, or dumbing down some dialogue for younger audiences, or adding a pop song to appeal to a general and broader audience. However, when it excels to pandering, that's when we have situations like The Meg and Skyscraper. Forcing China into a story compromises that story. China serves no narrative purpose, no thematic purpose to the story. I can't freaking see right now. When you force China into a story, it compromises that story. If China serves no narrative purpose whatsoever to the overall story or any thematic significance, then don't make the story take place in China. Skyscraper could have easily taken place in just any big city. New York, Seattle, Paris, Rome, any big famous city. Or heck, just make it a general metropolis. Something that applies to the story a little better. The Meg could have taken place on a big beach area like Florida, California, or Australia. When each movie takes place in China just to say, hey, we're in China, look at that, China is pretty cool, then it pulls the realism and the authentication of the story and interrupts the flow of the movie. Pandering to any type of group ruins a story. It pulls the focus from the story and the characters and focuses it on, ooh, look at the message we're trying to convey, which isn't a good thing. Stories are meant for messages, but the message should be woven into the story itself. The story should come first with the message coming after, instead of saying, hey, look at the message we're trying to get to the people who agree with this message. Oh, and by the way, here's a shark that's eating people. It doesn't click. When you try to make a movie that appeals only to mothers and make a bunch of mother jokes to where mothers can laugh at that and say, ha, that's funny because I relate to that, then that alienates any other audience outside of mothers, and it doesn't make for a good story. And it's not like this was the only thing holding down The Meg and Skyscraper. Both movies are complete and utter garbage. The effects and the acting and the editing and directing, all that was trash. But I think these movies highlight the problem with pandering to the Chinese market. My point is that pandering is just a very low and scummy thing to do, and it's annoying, and it can ruin stories and pull you out of the reality of the fictional world. And it's not just China either. Movies that pander to genders, social groups, races, and religions just pull audiences out of the story they're watching. What makes it more frustrating is that pandering to those specific groups works for those specific groups. Those specific groups really enjoy whatever movie panders directly to them, while everyone else is like, that's not really a good movie. And then you get so much hate poured out towards you. You don't really enjoy a movie that appeals to this specific group. Well, that specific group is going to get really offended with you. And it's just a cycle of frustration and just depression as you watch everyone just pour out hate towards each other. You saw this kind of stuff with movies like Black Panther and Wonder Woman, where people come out and say they don't like the movie that much, and then people just come together to hate this person and say they're bigots when they could have just as easily just not enjoyed a superhero movie, or they're not superhero fans, or they think the CGI looks terrible. Like, it's just depressing to see all this hate pour out over a movie about a dude in a cat suit, or about a Amazon warrior princess. Like, come on, guys. Just be mature about this. They're just movies. They're just stories. Despite all of the messages and significant things they have to say, at the end of the day, they're just fictional stories. You don't have to have an all-out brawl about it. Pandering is manipulative and annoying. Filmmakers should just focus on making the story at hand. Maybe that'll attract a larger audience if you make it for a broader audience. I don't mind China being a location for a story. It lends itself to a lot of stories really well. The Dark Knight, for example, had a scene where they went to China and Bruce had to go and find this bank guy who lived in China. It made sense within the context of the story because the gangs in Gotham were trying to outsource their money to put it in a secure location, and China is a foreign country that is on the other side of the world that would be able to house all their money safely and securely. So it makes sense for China to be a part of that movie and for it to be a location within the story. And what helps is that the movie doesn't try to draw attention to the fact that China is in the movie. They don't have a big banner that's just walking around saying, hey guys, China's in this movie.
Good job. Good job. You did a good job. You're so proud. Way to go. You're amazing. Look what you did. Good job.
It's stupid that people think that they just need to proudly say, China's in this movie. China exists. People know China exists. We don't care if they're in the movie. You know, if it doesn't provide thematic or narrative sense, don't do it. I don't like pandering. It's just super scummy. Even if I'm the target audience, it's just doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth. I could live the rest of my life without ever seeing an instance of pandering in movies, and I could be happy. But sadly, Hollywood is first and foremost a business. So the money will, more often than not, come before the art. So, one can only hope every time you go into a movie. But that's what going to the movies is for. Seeing if they put the art before the commercialism. And it makes it a breath of fresh air whenever they do put the art before commercialism. So, yeah. Don't really have a good way to end this. So, gonna go just straight for the outro. Woo! Well, thanks for watching. This was a bit more of a serious video, I guess. A lot less goofs and gags, but you know, I'm glad I made it. I watched The Meg in theaters and Skyscraper, and just kind of got me thinking, and then kind of just start thinking about the whole pandering to specific audiences deal. So I'm glad I made it. I'm glad y'all watched it. So if you liked it, you hit me up with a like. If you want to see more videos, go ahead and smack that subscribe button for me. If you didn't like this video, please like that anyways. You know, it helps me out. Leave a comment, tell me if I'm doing well or not. You know, give me some constructive criticism if you happen upon this in the vast void of the internet. Yeah. So thank you for joining me for tonight's entertainment. Hopefully this was short and sweet. I will see you next time.